We are.
Here we are.
It's Tuesday.
It is all day.
All day. And we are in Luke 14. And the plan is that this thing is going to come and work. And it looks like it's working. Okay.
Hallelujah.
Fantastic. I think you have to click on the YouTube page.
Oh, do I have to click on this? No.
Yeah, it's
YouTube?
right behind the, Don't mind us. We're just doing
it
our
says
thing.
to sign in.
Sign in. See what you do. I don't know.
Oh boy.
Maybe
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe we'll just go back to here.
Anyway, we're on Facebook tonight, and we don't know how to do the rest. But it's okay because Paul is.
He's not here right now.
We gave him the night off because we're like, we can handle it.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So we don't know what platforms we're on, but we're somewhere, and we're on Facebook, and we're recording it. So maybe he can put it somewhere later. That's very iffy. I should also not make any promises. Just watch us for now. How's that? Hey, Miss Diane.
Hello.
She is with us, and we are glad that you are here. So is anybody else with us? It would be great, as you're kind of signing on, if you would say hello.
And you can also share, not to this group, but to share on your timeline in Facebook.
On your own page.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? Everybody needs to study the book of Luke.
Yeah.
Just saying. It's a really good book. They're going to like it just as much as you like it. And I was listening to a man of God talk about the book of Luke, and he said, why is it like we just don't think that the Bible's fun? The Bible is actually like a lot of fun. If you just read it and you kind of get into it, it's not boring like I think we think it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people maybe just remember the King James version of the Bible.
Yeah, so
all
scary.
the these and the thous, and so they don't quite, they think they're not going to be able to understand it because of that Old English format. But there's so many variations nowadays that it's not that difficult.
Different translations, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a NASB tonight. What do you have?
I never remember. I think it's NIV, right? No.
NIV? I don't know.
NLT.
New Living Translation. I have New American Standard Bible translation. So, and we can fight about translations another day. But for the most part, you just read the Bible. How about that? Don't get all hung up on translations. Just read it.
And if there's something you really want to know what the meaning is, then there are apps. There's ways of finding out what the Hebrew or Greek words are
the Aramaic,
for it.
Mm-hmm. The very original. Yeah. You can say, wow, that's not what that meant at all.
I keep forgetting I wanted to do that with when it talks about Jesus's siblings, because some people will say that sisters and brothers meant they referred to cousins in that way, and I'm like, but in the translations you would think cousin would have been translated if that was the meaning. Do you know what I mean? In our English. Right. So I'm like, I kind of want to go see.
And if not in the King James, then, all these subsequent translations, they are actually, they take it very seriously. They're going back to the original text and translating. They're not translating from the King James.
Right.
They're going all the way back to the original manuscript.
So I want to just check that out because I'm curious, because there's some different belief systems with different denominations. So I'm just kind of curious what the actual Greek or Aramaic or Hebrew says.
What are the words?
In that passage. So just curious.
Good to be curious. You know what curiosity leads to? No, you're not a cat. No. It leads to reading the Bible and studying it more.
All right, that's what I like.
It's like curiosity kills the cat. No, but Speaking of cats, Pastor Dan is messaged us and he says hello from our work truck. Veterinary practice. There we go, watching while restocking and cleaning up after surgery. Well,
let's hope that the surgery went well.
Let's hope it did.
For whatever sweet baby was getting surgery.
Yes, whatever sweet baby. Yeah, so thanks for watching while you work.
It's like almost like whistle while you work.
Whistle
so
while you
watching
work.
while you work.
There you go. Do 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 do. All right, so we are in Luke 14. It's not too long. It's about 35. Yes, it's not about 35.
It is
versus
35.
It is 35.
Yeah.
How's that?
There's a lot of red letters, so
Yahoo!
that'll be interesting.
And Jesus is just, he's just going around and he's teaching and he's moving around and he's already, of course, many chapters ago made the Pharisees mad at him, and so we're going to see a little bit more of that. They're just building their case.
Sorry, my nose keeps itching, driving me crazy. Sorry.
That's okay.
What does it say? Oh, like we were talking earlier that, Jesus was a troublemaker, and I know it offends some people when you say, how could you call him a troublemaker? Well, he was.
He was.
He was a troublemaker to the Pharisees and to some of these other peoples, but he turned everything onto its head.
That's right. That's right. We already covered that. Did we cover that last week?
I think so.
13.
Yeah.
My pages are sticking together here. The end of it's 12. Luke 12:49. So we covered that 2 weeks ago when Jesus says, I'm coming. Do you think I came to grant peace on earth? No. He said, no, rather division. And I think that we were studying that this morning and we were all like, what? That just blows my mind. That's not the Jesus I have. That's not the
Christmas carols we sing.
Right. Let there be peace on earth. And Jesus is like, I did not come to bring peace. I came to bring division.
Mm-hmm. Where you're going to have to make a choice.
We're going to talk about that in just a little bit here at the end of the 14th chapter. So I think we're ready. You ready?
Got to put my readers on.
She's
getting official.
Superman. She's got her
my alter ego
identity.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something like that.
So read along with us as we read in Luke 14.
Alrighty, here we go in verse 1. One Sabbath day, Jesus was in the home of a leader of the Pharisees. The people were watching him closely because there was a man there whose arms and legs were swollen. Jesus asked the Pharisees and experts in religious law, well, is it permitted in the law to heal people on the Sabbath day or not? When they refused to answer, Jesus touched the sick man and healed him and sent him away. Then he turned to them and asked, which of you doesn't work on the Sabbath? If your son or your cow falls into a pit, don't you proceed at once to get him out? Again, they had no answer.
Again, they had no answer.
Yeah, because he said something similar to this. Was it in, I think it may have been last week's. Or was it the week before?
Dinner.
Yeah. Where they asked the same thing. They were mad at him for healing a woman. And yeah.
That's exactly it. And so maybe this was a different group of Pharisees. Maybe it's the same group and he just needed to say it again, which that happens. Sometimes I need to hear it twice.
He had to repeat himself quite a few times for people to
even for the
figure it out.
Even for the apostles, even for the disciples, he had to repeat himself many times because this is really different than anything that they've really been taught. And so, we know. I think we can assume that that this man. My verse 2 says he suffered from dropsy. So, yours said that he had swollen limbs.
It was swollen, yeah. Let me see. It had a little asterisk. Yeah. It says traditionally translated, who had dropsy.
Dropsy. So, That must be like a coronavirus of the day.
I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna look it up because I'm curious now.
Watch us Google while we're here. Pastor Dan and Pastor Gay may actually know what that means. All of a sudden,
It's an old term for the swelling of soft tissue due to the accumulation of excess water. In years gone by, a person might have been said to have dropsy. Today, one would be more descriptive and specify the cause. Thus, the person might have edema due to congestive heart failure.
Oh, okay. Congestive heart.
I kind of like dropsy better.
Dropsy is kind of cool. Yeah, congestive heart failure. That sounds very serious. Mm-hmm. We're like, no, I got the dropsy. I got the dropsy, people. Oh, there you go. Pastor Dan says kidney failure or heart failure.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure I had that written down somewhere. Yes. Anyway, here we are. And can cause it. Kidney failure or heart failure can cause this edema and this swelling. Yeah, this swelling. So
water retention.
Yes. But as you know, with congestive heart failure, which is liquid, which is fluid around the heart, that's a bad thing because then it doesn't allow your heart to work very well. So It's not just like, oh, I'm a little bloated. It's a little more serious than that.
Yeah.
A little more serious. So I think that we can assume that this guy was planted. And why would we assume that? Remember that the Pharisees are already angry with Jesus. He's already stealing their thunder. He's already, saying things that make a lot of sense, but just aren't exactly what they're saying. And so again, big groups of people are following Jesus. The Pharisees do not like this. Mm-hmm. So it happened, verse 1, that he went into the house of one of the leaders of the Pharisees, and they were watching him closely. So that's why I'm kind of thinking that this guy was probably planted there, or, he was there and they're watching to see what is Jesus going to do. Because we talked about last week why, did we talk about that last week? About why it's not really lawful to heal. Do you remember why?
Yeah, because it's your profession.
Right.
If it with a healer or if a doctor would be practicing his profession.
Yeah, you can't be doing surgeries on the Sabbath. I guess you got to wait. I guess you just need to wait.
But that's why he was trying to tell them, hey, you guys work on the Sabbath.
Exactly. Well, and if you, in verse 5, which one of you have a son or an ox? So sons, very important, right? Very important even in this culture. An ox is important, but not like a son. I mean, it's just a possession. So, family or possessions, if either of them fall in a well, won't you pull them out on a Sabbath day? Mm-hmm. Good point. And this is more of just like Jesus has such wisdom. Obviously he's God, but such wisdom, and everybody's just like, yeah, of course. And I think the Pharisees just, they're just rooted in the law.
Yeah.
And there's just not a lot.
There's no budging for them.
Room for that.
There's no black and white in their world.
Yeah.
I think this is what it is, and this is how it's always been, and this is how it's going to continue to be. And Jesus was like, well, let me show you some gray. Yeah. Because you would rescue your ox. You would rescue your son if something happened. And it's like, oh, yeah, actually you are right. And then, of course, in verse 6 it says, and they could make no reply to this. So there you go. But I do like it how Jesus asked them in verse 3, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? He asked them. He didn't get into a big discussion per se. He asked them a question, which Jesus likes to do. Mm-hmm. He likes to ask questions and kind of see where they're going to go with that. So, and hello, John Calvin. Good to have you with us, sir. Your 4:30 study was
really great.
Yeah, there was
Really
a lot
great.
of conviction going on there.
Oh,
I think for
Yeah.
a lot of people, I have a feeling because it's kind of like, oh yeah, about that.
Well, there you go.
So go back and watch it if you haven't watched it.
It is back it's right here in the Bible Discovery group in Facebook land, in the group under units. Is that what that's called?
Yep.
Under units, you go down to 1 John and you'll be able to see all of the chapters. Just like right now, we're studying Luke 14, and you could log on and find this later when we're done, mind you, when we're done.
Correct. Yes, Mom. Mine does have an asterisk where it says son, and it says son manuscripts read donkey. So if your donkey or your cow falls into a pit.
There you go.
So well, a son can be a donkey.
Good point.
Sometimes.
Good point. Depends on if they have to clean their room or not.
Exactly.
Oh, do their homework.
Haha.
Yes.
Little joke.
Of course, Diane, all of the teenagers and the kids, they love it when the Bible says ASS, and then they are like, the Bible is like, well, it wasn't a swear word at that point. It actually referred to an animal, and so it is what it is. It is what it is.
Moving on.
You don't get to move on scream it around outside. Yes, let's move on.
All right. We are in verse 7 of Luke 14. When Jesus noticed that all who had come to dinner were trying to sit near the head of the table, he gave them this advice. If you are invited to a wedding feast, don't always head for the best seat. What if someone more respected than you has also been invited? The host will say, let this person sit here instead. Then you will be embarrassed and will have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. Do this instead. Sit at the foot of the table. Then when your host sees you, he will come and say, friend, we have a better place than this for you. Then you will be honored in front of all the other guests. For the proud will be humbled, but the humble will be honored. Then he turned to his host. When you put a luncheon or a dinner, he said, don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, and rich neighbors, for they will repay you by inviting you back. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Then at the resurrection of the godly, God will reward you for inviting those who could not repay you.
There we go. So he's, starting in verse 7 here in Luke 14. Just want to point out that these were the days before place cards. No place cards.
And seating charts.
No seating charts. Maybe they tried to do that. It wasn't really in place yet. But yes, no seating charts. And so if, they didn't really sit either at the table. They reclined at the table. So it was more kind of an event. And clearly, maybe you get like a nap between appetizers and first and second courses. I don't know. It sounds great to me. But that's... So where you sat was very important to your status. It was very important to how important you were in these group of people. And I heard it explained that basically, like on one side of the table, it'd be like 1, 2, 3. And so 2, the one in the middle would be the one, the place of honor. And then across the other way, right, be 4, 5, 6. And so 5, the one in the middle there, would be like the place of honor on that side. And so you would, you probably kind of park it right outside the room, and kind of like wait for dinner to be called, and then you can pounce, and then you can get the good seat. However it works, it's, you've probably sat somewhere at a dinner or something where you didn't sit in a good place and you couldn't hear anybody, and or you were with the children or whatever, like you're at the kids' table. So the places of less prominence. And it's kind of funny because I laughed. I was thinking about this and I thought, you know what's important to Jesus sometimes is good manners. Like, he really cares about, like, we need to have some good manners. Just saying. We need to have some good manners. So it says, when you're invited to a wedding feast, so this just isn't any old dinner. It's a big dinner, right? Many families getting together. Don't run in the door and sit your fanny down at the best seat, because, somebody, right, the mother-in-law or the new father-in-law or whatever, or Grandma Sally, somebody probably should be sitting in that seat. And so someone will have to come over and they'll have to say, Tina, you're in Grandma Sally's place. And it's not right that you're here. You need to, of course, all the other seats will be taken. So, so you will be, it says in verse 9, then in disgrace, you proceed to occupy the last place. So they said it's much better to just sit in a place where maybe you feel like is beneath you. I would kind of say that. And then allow the host to move you upwards and move somebody else downwards. And this is just, this is to show exactly what Jesus is saying in verse 11. Everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. So,
in my commentary, it says, rather than aiming for prestige, look for a place where you can serve. If God wants you to serve on a wider scale, he will invite you to take a higher place.
There you go. Yes, this is, and this is a parable, right? So, parable is a earthly story that reveals a heavenly truth, and so that's exactly it. He's talking about manners and what you would do when you went to a wedding feast, but it ties in to the kingdom of God. And he also went on to say, to verse 12, right, to the one who had invited him. So this is interesting because this talks about, how we have people over, right? And so you have people over, you have your friends over to dinner, that's great. Then the next time your friends invite you over to dinner, that's great. And then you invite them over to dinner, and that's great, right? But at what point are you doing the work of God? And so that's why he's talking about, but when you give a reception, have a dinner, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, since they do not have the means to repay you, right? It's not going to be a round robin thing. For you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. That's what you want. That's what you want. You don't want to, invite Bob and Sue over and show them your gorgeous house, and then you go to Bob and Sue's house, they show you their gorgeous house. It's like, this is it's not what God wanted.
No, not at all. And I think in the commentary it kind of tells you how it is in God's kingdom.
Parable.
Yeah. The meaning behind it is Jesus taught two lessons. First, he spoke to the guests, telling them not to seek places of honor. Service is more important in God's kingdom than status. And second, he told the host not to be exclusive about whom he invited. God opens his kingdom to everyone. So we, there again, should be opening up our homes to everyone. Now, I mean, you're not going to maybe not have a drug addict come to your home. I mean, you got to have some kind of
use some discernment,
caution.
Use some wisdom. That would be caution. Good. There you go. But remember that the Bible talks a lot about it's, of course you love the lovable. Everybody loves the lovable. But can you love the unlovable? So those people that might be a little bit out of your friend group, or they just might not be the same as you. Or
even it could be somebody even at church.
Of course.
That maybe doesn't have the same kind of income status that you have. Maybe is on a very, very fixed, tight budget, they are not going to be able to host you maybe how you would host them.
Right. So bring them over.
Or, I always have a soft spot for the elderly who, they may not have the space because they live in, a small apartment, or they may live in a facility and, but they're lonely.
Mm-hmm.
So,
they would love to come over.
Yeah, they would love to come. So things like that is
at
what
some
I think
point
about.
you cannot keep that big house. You can't maintain it. So it's a blessing when you get to downsize. But there'll be no more family dinners of 18 people. So you've got to reciprocate. So anyway, these are great lessons. I hope, are any of these resonating with you? Are you gonna have Jen and I over for dinner soon?
I just had dinner at my parents'
house.
Oh,
they just gave you dinner. I see.
They just gave me dinner, but it's my parents, so
it is your parents.
It's kind of not though. They're not the elderly people I'm talking about.
Yeah, but just let us know if we need to invite ourselves over. We're not above that.
No.
So yes, we would love to eat with everybody. It's a lot of fun. So. All right, well, we're going to another parable, and let's see what we're going to learn here.
All right, we are in verse 15 of Luke 14. Hearing this, a man sitting at the table with Jesus exclaimed, "What a privilege it would be to have a share in the kingdom of God." Jesus replied with this illustration. A man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. When all was ready, he sent his servant around to notify the guests that it was time for them to come. But they all began making excuses. One said he had just bought a field and wanted to inspect it, so he asked to be excused. Another said he had just bought 5 pair of oxen and wanted to try them out. Another had just been married, so he said he couldn't come. The servant returned and told his master what they had said. His master was angry and said, "Go quickly into the streets and alleys of the city and invite the poor, the crippled, and lame, and the blind." After the servant had done this, he reported, "There is still room for more." So his master said, "Go out into the country lanes and behind the hedges and urge anyone you find to come, so that the house will be full. For none of those I invited first will get even the smallest taste of what I had prepared for them."
So this is, we can talk about the lesson first, the parable first, the heavenly truth first, is that this is the invitation that God is giving to you and that he is giving to me. It's that invitation for salvation. And there he says at the end, he's not going to hold that invitation forever, and that should scare the pants off of you. And hey, Rich, good to see you, man. Good to see you. So in verse 18 it says, "But they all alike began to make excuses." And so we all make excuses for not doing the things that God has called us to do. Maybe even accepting the gift of salvation. We just make excuses, and there's kind of 3 kinds here, 3 kinds of excuses. The first one is the piece of land, right? And so and again, like these are ridiculous excuses. They're really silly, and we can kind of see through them, and remember that God can definitely see through your excuses. But the first one, he bought a piece of land and he needs to go out and look at it. Who buys land like sight unseen? It's probably an excuse. Of course it happens, but I'm not going to give this guy any credit here. So and so that's the first excuse, is our possessions. Our possessions often keep us, right, from really committing, right? Because you've got things to do. You have to work on the house. You have to do all these different things. You can't get to church. I got to work on my possessions. And so the next one is verse 19, and I bought 5 yoke of oxen. I'm going to try them out. this is evening time. This is the dinner hour. So, okay, you need to.
They should have been fed and bedded
by now.
By
you
that
just
time.
bought them. You're going to go out and try out your, like, you're going to test drive your oxen.
You're going to go plow fields right now, or?
lame excuse. And so that's the second excuse is business, right? It's like, oh, I've got to work. I got to work. We totally get that you need to feed your family and that you need to work. But when you put that work in front of service to God, or even, just making time to fellowship with other believers, I'll just say, go to church. You've got to make time to set yourself up to be able to grow. And I believe that Christ's bride, the church, is a really good place for you to grow, really good place for you to be held accountable, a really good place for you to just, plant roots and be able to serve just like he tells you, commands us to do. So that's the second one, is business or your work. And the third one is verse 20, I've married a wife, and for that reason I cannot come. Another lame excuse.
Bring your wife.
Why can't you bring her? Why can't you bring her? Like, come on, like, just get her dressed and get, this is a great feast. She doesn't even have to cook dinner or do dishes. Like, bring her. This is craziness. And so that's the third type of excuse, is personal relationships, or whatever it is. Sometimes you just don't want to. Maybe your favorite football team's on. It's like even those kind of relationships. But definitely your interpersonal relationships and your relationships that mean a lot to you. You use them as an excuse. So your possessions, your business stuff, and your personal relationships. It's great to have an excuse. I mean, they're lame.
Like I gotta wash my hair.
Gotta wash my hair, yeah. Like, she does not want to go out with you if she tells you she has to wash her hair. It's not the 50s. I'm sorry. But, these lame excuses, or I'm just going to call them lame, they do not hold up when you're talking about the invitation from God for your salvation. They don't hold up. And like it says, he's not going to hold this invitation for you forever.
You don't want him to bestow the what is the word I'm looking for? Because I posted something about this on Facebook, and I'm trying to remember the word. I'm going to look it up real quick because it goes with this.
And
can read what Pastor Dan was saying. I'm going to read
what Pastor Dan says. Sorry, slow to get to comments, but regarding hospitality, author Rosario Butterfield wrote a book called The Gospel Comes with a House Key. That's cute. The entire premise is a return to hospitality as a way to minister. A simple church.
Yep.
That's right. Having house church. Because a lot of people do not want to go to the house of God for whatever their reasons are. Most of them, they've just been hurt in a church, whatever. But they might go to your house and talk about Jesus. And so the power of hospitality sounds like a good book, Pastor Dan.
Yeah.
Did you find your thing?
Yep.
You found it.
Our refusal to take part in God's work doesn't thwart God. It limits our privilege to take part in what he is doing.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt him.
Yeah, you want to be a part of what he's doing, because usually what comes along with that is blessings beyond your imagination.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely,
who doesn't want to be a part of that?
Yeah,
well, a lot of people, because they need these excuses.
Like, wait, hold on.
I've probably done it myself.
Yeah, there's been a lot of what are those things called, like reports coming out. Barna reports have been coming out, because the pandemic has changed a lot of things, and so now it's saying, like 40% of evangelicals, are really they don't want to go back to church ever. And so it's just like, okay, so it's so easy to just say, yeah, I don't want to take part in that. It just doesn't suit me, or it doesn't fit with what I'm thinking right now. And it's just like, there's an invitation, And I'm not saying you need to come to my church. I'm not saying anything, but get into fellowship because it's good for you. It's good for you. And when we kind of make our own decisions, we're like, yeah, that's not what I want to do, Lord. And it's like, don't tell God what to do or what you won't do. Are you 5? Are you like stomping your feet right now? I don't want to clean my room. I don't want to. Good for you. Good for you. Guess what? You're still going to clean your room.
Exactly. And for myself, I don't like to leave my house.
Absolutely.
I am a homebody. I don't like to leave my house unless I have to. And like coming here, I enjoy coming here. For one, I get to see my parents, which is nice because we live an hour away from each other. And I love seeing Tina and Paul and John when he's with us too. And so I enjoy that. So I don't mind it. But like I don't like to go do errands or grocery shopping. I don't want to have to leave my house.
That's why I have kids. Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Well, my kids are gone. But,
oh, man.
You know, that's where I could be a total hermit and just order my food online and order from Amazon and never leave my house. And it's
pandemic was good for you.
Yes. I was kind of like, oh, right. I don't have to go anywhere.
I
have the perfect excuse now.
Pandemic. No. Can't cope, pandemic.
No, but even with the pandemic, I would have never done this. So I'm in some ways thankful for the pandemic, at least for myself, for pushing me to do this.
Right off the cliff.
Yep.
And all of a sudden she's here.
And I'm here.
And she's here.
And I mean, some weeks this is the only day I get out. Seriously, it's the only day I get out.
There you go. So
every other week,
you guys have to come and see her. She's left the house. She's put her makeup on. She's got dressed.
Did my hair. It's not up in a messy bun.
There you go. This is good. I do my hair 3 times a week. It's for you guys. That's all. The rest of the time I'm in a messy bun too.
So I mean, I have my excuses too, where it's like, I don't want to drive all that way. I don't want to have to leave my house. So
I hear you.
And this is just for like fellowship stuff. This isn't even just with God calling. I'm making it. This is just for like, hey, do you want to come into this? Well, I kind of have to drive. I don't know.
Yeah, that seems too hard. Yeah. Well,
I'm a work in progress, I think, like the rest of us. Work in progress.
We are all a work in progress. But isn't it great that, again, like that conviction you're talking about when Paul and John were doing 1 John, like there's just some conviction here because I have given many an excuse, and it's great to be reminded that, the excuses don't hold water. Not when I'm telling God, hey, I don't want to come right now.
Or it could be just opening your Bible. God just saying, hey, you need to be in your word. And you're like, yeah, but I have all that stuff on Netflix.
But I need to binge watch this.
Yeah. So, or your phone or, it can be small things too. It doesn't have to just be like a calling from God.
That's right. Oh, I'm selling everything and giving it to the
It can
poor.
be the little things
yes,
too.
It can be. Did you read in the Bible today?
Yeah. Or even like sometimes even returning a text to somebody. You're like, I don't want to talk to them right now. They may need you to talk to them right now.
Send them a scripture. You don't have to talk to them. Just send them a scripture. Take a picture of a meme that has a scripture on it. Send it to them. Pastor Dan's really good at that. Pastor Dan has like a whole texting ministry. And fabulous. Fabulous. You got to get on his texting list, people. Everybody's like, oh, let me send you my number. Okay. Anyway. All right, y'all. I think we're
almost done.
We're kind of wrapping up. We're wrapping up.
10 more verses.
Hold on. We're flying down the hill towards the end.
This is a like what it's going to cost you kind of section. Ouch. So maybe a little.
Another ouchie part.
Yeah. May hurt a little bit, but here we go. Verse 25 in Luke 14. Great crowds were following Jesus. He turned around and said to them, if you want to be my follower, you must love me more than your own father and mother, wife and child, brothers and sisters. Yes, more than your own life. Otherwise, you cannot be my disciple. And you cannot be my disciple if you do not carry your own cross and follow me. But don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first getting estimates and then checking to see if there is enough money to pay the bills? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of funds. And then how everyone would laugh at you. They would say, there's the person who started that building and ran out of money before it was finished. Or what king would ever dream of going to war without first sitting down with his counselors and discussing whether his army of 10,000 is strong enough to defeat the 20,000 soldiers who are marching against him? If he is not able, then while the enemy is still far away, he will send a delegation to discuss terms of peace. So no one can become my disciple without giving up everything for me. Salt is good for seasoning, but if it loses its flavor, how do you make it salty again? Flavorless salt is good neither for the soil nor for fertilizer. It is thrown away. Anyone who is willing to hear should listen and understand.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's expensive. That's going to cost you. But it's so worth it. Because if you are measuring the cost by this life and by your comfort and by what you have built or what you think you have built, you're missing the whole point. Because there's really a whole eternity that you're working towards. Not even just towards retirement. You know, I mean, I'm old, so we talk a lot. You know, I ask Jen a lot of questions about the retirement, money. What are we doing about this? What are we doing about... Because we were teaching the Dave Ramsey class a couple months back, or last month. And sometimes I think, you know, I'm like, you know, oh, wow, I'm just so excited to just get to retirement. We're never going to get to retire. But, you know, like, I'm excited to get there. Like, what am I going to do? I just got to sit on the couch? Like, what am I going to do? What does that even mean? And it's like, wow, you know, if we put as much energy into building our eternity portfolio as we put into building our retirement portfolio, like, we'd be a lot more secure. Just saying.
I think we need a new phrase. We need to call it heavenly retirement.
Heavenly retirement.
Your heavenly retirement fund.
There you go.
You want to make a lot of deposits into there.
You do. Kindness, love, joy, peace, telling other people about Jesus, telling everybody about Jesus. Those are the deposits you make in that one. Although in verse 33, my translation says, none of you can be my disciple who does not give up all his own possessions. So, if God's telling you to give up all your possessions, you best do it. Don't mess around. But I do know that he wants you to live somewhere and have something to eat. But you and I both know people who have gone overboard, right? Way overboard. You know, you may not need to have a Ferrari, but you do. And
I think it's just to not have a death grip on your possessions, your money, your stuff.
It controls you then, right?
Tomorrow it could all be gone, and what really is left? What really
what
matters?
Do you have to show for
you know, that's what everybody says. Like, say when a tornado goes through,
right?
What does everybody say?
Pictures.
At least, at least my family is safe. The most important thing.
Oh yeah,
is that your family was safe. Your possessions didn't matter, and I understand that we still need to put God even above our family, which, of course,
that's what he says in verse 26.
But in regards to the whole possessions part, it's kind of like, if we had an earthquake tomorrow and my house was demolished and we lost all of our possessions, wouldn't matter as long as hopefully my family survives, and even if they didn't survive. Knowing where each of them are in their walk, some of them I would be like, well, I know where they're going. I'm going to see them again. And some others I'd be like, I'm really scared to know. So those are the people that you need to really reach out to, because you know, the ones you care about, obviously you want them with you. You know, you really have to hate somebody to not tell them about Jesus.
That's right. And you don't even hate your enemy that bad. So yeah, so this is so you know, again, verse 26 just talks about priorities, right? Yes, it says that in some, especially like in King James, it says you need to hate your mother and father, and so people get all twisted up about that. Like, what is this crazy book? It's just talking about priorities, right. You know, God first, right? God first, then your spouse, and then your kids. Don't get those mixed up.
Yeah, that's sometimes hard. That's hard for a lot of people, you know.
Hard for me, you know.
It is, because you feel like, oh, they're so innocent. They don't know.
And they need me, and, you know, and it's,
But neglecting your spouse is not a good idea.
Not a good idea. Yeah, God first, then your spouse, then your kids, then your church. So, you know, so I think a lot of pastors even, you know, they get that all twisted up as well. And that's got to be the hierarchy. Now, you know, you got to put a job in there and your other people and all that stuff. But you know, make sure you have your priorities right. So that's why he's throwing out all of your relatives here and saying like, all right, well, just be careful because I have to come first. It's the only way it's going to work is if I come first. So then he talks about whosoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Again, like, what's it going to cost? What's it going to cost? And so then he talks about, you know, being prepared. The first one is a construction analogy, right? And then the next one is going to war, that analogy. Both of them are just, you know, this is common sense.
Oh, be prepared. You wouldn't prepare to go to war or not prepare to go to war.
Right.
And just go, be all like, let's just give it a try.
We're just going to wing it. I'm just going to get like 10 of my friends and, you know, we you know, we've watched like a ninja movie once. I think we'll be fine, you know. So it's like, no. Prepare. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you have enough resources. And that's what he's saying here is that you need to prepare for your heavenly retirement, and you need to prepare and make sure that you are serving him with all you've got, literally, verse 33, with all you've got. And then he talks about the salt thing. What do you make of the salt thing, 34 and 35?
Well, that you have flavor. You're salty.
I'm a hip hop song.
That's what Emma, like, a lot of times will say, ooh, she's kind of salty. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good flavor. I think it's just, I don't know how to put this. Let me look at my commentary. They always put it so much better than I could.
They do. They're so good. They really help us.
Let's see. Many Christians blend into the world and avoid the cost of standing up for Christ. But Jesus says if Christians lose their distinctive saltiness, they become worthless. Just as salt flavors and preserves food, we are to preserve the good in the world and bring new flavor to life. This requires careful planning, willing sacrifice, and unswerving commitment to Christ's kingdom.
Very cool. I love it when they just bring out things that I just never think of.
Yeah, that's why at least I love the commentary. It just kind of puts things in a perspective that I may not.
A different slant. Yeah, a different slant. Yeah, but I love that because if we.
And it's like, oh, that's what I would want to say.
That's really smart sounding. That's I want to.
But I'm like, you know, in that stage of life where my brain just does not work anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what a great concept that you know that if we're not different, then we're useless.
And we need to stand up for Christ.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that not happening in the world currently, and it frustrates me.
It's sad. It's sad. It's bad for us.
And
I'm just saying. For us.
what did John say? God, he had a really good little saying, like he would rather disappoint man, or what did he say? John, what did you say earlier today about you could live with like disappointing man, but
Couldn't live with disappointing God.
something like that. You had wise words earlier today.
Thank you, John, for being wise. We just have to figure out what it said.
Yeah. Again, the whole memory thing. I'm like a
poof. You got to go
squirrel.
back and watch First John. I guess that's the problem. But I think I've said before that I would rather be in the will of God and suffering and and going through a lot than out of the will of God and doing well, right? Out of the will of God and being successful in these earth anyway. I said it different, but I think it's that sort of thing. It's like everything might look good on the outside, and they're like, oh, they've got it all together, and they've got the house and the family and the car, and it's like, but what if they've lost their saltiness? They're useless. They're useless for soil.
Or they have no fruit. They're not bearing any fruit, or their hearts aren't right.
Yeah, hardened. You're in all these situations. You're of no use, and it says that you're to be thrown out. That's nice.
No, thank you.
That's scary. So let's not go down that road. But again, these are just some great parables that Jesus is teaching here, just about things that we understand. Dinner parties, wedding feasts, right?
Seasoning,
yeah, excuses, lots of excuses. Yeah, I mean, these are things that we can understand, and God says, hey, I can help you understand more about my character and about how heaven is going to be and how you can get there if I can just speak plainly to you. And so my last verse, mine says, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. But I like, what did yours say? Yours is cool.
Let's see. It says, anyone who is willing to hear should listen and understand.
If you are willing to hear, you should listen and understand. And Jen and I are just reading here. We're not occasionally we rip into the commentary because it helps
It makes sense. It makes more sense than what we would be rambling about.
Exactly. It's for your benefit, not for to make us look good. It's just to make to say something that is wise. But if we are just reading this is not complicated, right? We are just reading the word, and so we are listening to it literally as we read it, and we are just pulling it all in. So if you've got ears, Jesus
sometimes
says,
the listening part is the hardest.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, oh yeah, I'm willing.
Oh yeah, I got that.
I'm willing.
I got that. I'm a grapevine.
And
I'm
the
a great fig
understanding.
tree.
I've heard it a million times. I know what it's saying. But the listening part, because sometimes we need to zip it and listen.
And listen and understand and put some feet on it and walk it out into our world. So thanks everybody for studying Luke 14 with us. Luke 15 is one of the
I like this one.
Yeah, one of the most favorite and very, very famous parables. And I think maybe the Good Samaritan is like the biggest one. But I think this is a really good second. Maybe it's your favorite, but the Prodigal Son. Super powerful. We're going to cover that next week. What does that mean?
Hannah did a great sermon about that. The lost sheep. It was really good.
She did.
You could go back and see some of those too, right?
A couple months ago. Yeah, you can look back and
a few
find
weeks. I think
old,
maybe
sermons.
Last month sometime, or maybe the month before.
Yes.
February? I think it may be in February.
That feels right.
It was really good.
Scroll back until you just see Hannah. There you go. Or if you don't know Hannah, she's just a 15-year-old girl, and she's preaching on the prodigal son. So, my kid.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a really, really good one. So, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming. Nice to have you with us.
we will see you next week. I think I am going to be at home, so I'll probably be doing it via Zoom because I have a new puppy coming on Friday. I get to go pick him up. Picking him up on Friday. So
don't you think she should just bring him here? But anyway,
maybe not this.
Maybe
coming
not
Tuesday.
the first one.
The next one probably because he can't be at home because he's has a little bladder.
Yeah,
He can't be left alone for too long.
we can put him right here.
Right here, and I'm sure
Right
he'll
here.
just sit there and be
He
a
can
perfect
just
angel.
Be so cute, and we'll be like, yeah, the Bible. Oh, how cute is he? Yeah. We're a sucker for puppies.
Yes, we love our dogs.
Yes.
So I will be here, but via Zoom.
Sounds great.
Alrighty.
Love you guys. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week. Let me try to get the cursor to go. There we go. Bye, everyone. I always do this wrong, so we're saying goodbye.